Oh, do I? And to be honest, it really makes my cauldron bubble. White supremacists misusing magic isn't new. It's just bigotry with a crystal collection. Yahtzees were out here mixing runes with racism and calling it esoteric wisdom. And now we have billionaires casually throwing up Z-Kyles like they're ordering up pumpkin spice lattes. History repeats itself. And so do I. So let's expose 10 everyday things you do that are rooted in witchcraft. Yahtzi Germany Edition. Number 1, the use of runes. The Yahtzees incorporated runic symbols like the Suilo, which became the SS logo, and repurposed these ancient symbols for their own agenda. However, runes have deep magical origins, historically being used for divination, spellcasting, and sigil work by Norse and Germanic pagans. Each rune carries specific energetic properties. For example, Suilu represents strength, success, and the power of the sun. But despite their misuse, modern witches and pagans reclaim these symbols for their original magical purposes, using them for rituals, warding, and binding spells, just as our ancestors did. Number 2, horoscopes and astrology in government decisions. The Yahtze regime had astrologers advising on military strategies and personal decisions, with Hitler, Himmler, and Hess all being highly invested in astrology. For example, Swiss astrologer Karl Ernst Kraft was consulted to predict on key wartime events, including Churchill's actions. Modern witches and occultists use astrology in a similar way, by using it to time spells and rituals, and even by basing personal decisions off of planetary alignments. People still check their horoscopes daily, not realizing that governments historically have used astrology in strategic planning. Number 3, the swastika's occult origins. The swastika, long before Yahtzi Germany, was a sacred symbol in Hinduism, Buddhism, and ancient pagan cultures, representing luck, power, and the sun's life-giving force. In many traditions, it was carved into temples, drawn into protective spells, and used in ritual magic to invoke prosperity and divine favor. The Yahtzees co-opted it for their propaganda, but it remains a powerful magical sigil in its original traditions. Number 4, the concept of the third eye and Aryan mysticism. The Yahtzees were obsessed with esoteric knowledge, which led to their interest in Tibet and Eastern mysticism. The idea of an awakened third eye was studied by Yahtze occultists, who believed in unlocking supernatural abilities through esoteric means. They sought to harness this power for heightened perception and psychic warfare, and even communication with higher beings. All practices that mirror witchcraft's use of the third eye for divination, astral projection, and spiritual enlightenment. Number 5, Hollow Earth and Inner Earth theories. The Yahtzees funded expeditions to Antarctica looking for entrances into the mythical Inner Earth, or Agartha, which is a concept deeply tied to esoteric and occult beliefs. They pursued this theory believing that Agartha housed an ancient superior race with hidden knowledge and supernatural power that could aid their regime. Many occult and magical traditions describe hidden lands, underworlds, and realms of powerful beings that can be accessed for knowledge, spiritual growth, and magical power. Number 6, sigil magic in propaganda. The Yahtze Party used symbolic sigil magic in their branding, creating powerful, repetitive symbols like the eagle, the swastika, and SS runes. These sigils acted as magical anchors, reinforcing ideology through mass psychology. And today, corporate logos and sports emblems and political symbols all use the same principles of sigil magic to imprint messages into the subconscious. Number 7, chanting and the power of words, or mantra magic. The Yahtze rallies involved repetitive chants, invoking the magical principle thought form manifestation. This is similar to how spells or affirmations work. Repeating slogans, national anthems, or affirmations follows the same energetic principle of verbal incantation. Number 8, the occult fascination with bloodlines. Yahtzees were obsessed with genetics, ancestry, and purity, twisting esoteric ideas on lineage to fit their own ideology. While many magical traditions saw bloodlines as a way to pass down spiritual knowledge or inherited gifts, the Yahtzees weaponized this concept, falsely claiming that Aryan descent carried mystical superiority. They even sought out occult bloodlines to justify their racial hierarchy, ultimately distorting mystical traditions that were never about exclusion or supremacy. Number 9, the use of witches for propaganda and persecution. Heinrich Himmler led the Witch Research Department to study witchcraft magic and the persecution of witches during the Inquisition. The Yahtzees actively framed their enemies as witches and used historical occult knowledge to push their narratives. They did this by manipulating records of the witch trials to portray Germans as victims of past persecution, all while casting their enemies as modern-day sorcerers working against the Reich. So all the Germans in the witch trials were falsely persecuted, but anyone going against the Yahtzees were branded a witch that needed to be eliminated. Number 10, occult symbolism in architecture and rituals. The Yahtzees designed buildings and ceremonies using sacred geometry, planetary alignments, and ritualistic staging. For example, the Nuremberg rally grounds were constructed with geometric precision to amplify energy and create a sense of mass unity, similar to ancient ritual sites. The Reich Chancellery in Berlin was designed with long, dramatic corridors to invoke power and control, mirroring occult principles of spatial influence. Many of these techniques, like aligning buildings with celestial movements or using specific spatial arrangements for power, are still very much used today in government buildings, corporate headquarters, and even some churches. And there you have it, folks. So when I tell you everyone is using magic, everyone is using magic.